Children, let us continue with the lesson The Fun They Had. You have just heard in yesterday's class about the arrival of the county inspector for repairing Margie's computer. Now, the county inspector was a round little man with a red face. Margie had thought that he would take her mechanical teacher away completely. But he did not do so. The inspector set the teacher right within an hour or so. He told her mother that nothing was wrong with the girl, rather than the screen was too fast for the girl and therefore Margie was having troubles. Now it had been slowed down so that she would be okay with this level. On reading that book, Tommy had a discussion about the school with Margie. The old kind of schools were a building to all and with human teachers who would teach all the boys and girls the same thing if they were of the same age. He gave them tests as well as homework. Margie wanted to know more about those kinds of funny schools, but it was time for her to go to her school. It was time for Tommy too, for his school, and both of them decided to read the book later. Let's now move to the fourth paragraph. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. Here he is the county inspector whom Margie's mother had sent for to check her computer. So he came with a box of tools with dials and wires for repairing the computer. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again. But he knew how, all right, and after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. So Margie, as I told you in the beginning, she did not like school because her mechanical teacher had been giving test after test and she was performing badly. So when there was a problem with the computer, she thought that it would be taken away by the county inspector and he would repair it and bring it after some time. But it did not happen as she wished. The man came and repaired it after 1 hour. So she was dissatisfied. The part that Margie hated most was the slot where she had to put homework and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch card they made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. So Margie hated school and also her classes, and the part that she hated most was the area where she had to put her homework and test papers. Paragraph 5. The inspector had smiled after he was finished and patted Margie's head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault, Mrs. Jones. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick. Those things happen sometimes. I have slowed it up to an average 10-year level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory." And he patted her head again. So here the inspector repaired the computer within an hour and told Margie's mother that it was not Margie's fault that she was doing badly in her lessons. It was because the machine was actually set up little high above her level, and so he told her that he had slowed it up to an average 10-year level and it would be okay. Then he left the place. Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping they would take the teacher away altogether. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely. So when Margie's computer got spoiled, she hoped that she would get some free time and that the man would take the computer away and repair it. But it did not happen so she was disappointed. So she said to Tommy, "Why would anyone write about school?" She asked this question because she hated school. Para 6. Tommy looked at her with very superior eyes. "It's not our kind of school, stupid. This is the old kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago." He added loftily, pronouncing the word carefully, "centuries ago." Margie was hurt. "Well, I don't know what kind of school they had all that time ago." She read the book over his shoulder for a while and then said, "Anyway, they had a teacher." Margie's classroom was next to her bedroom, where the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for Margie. Her school was open every day except Saturday and Sunday. Margie's mother believed that girls learn better if they do it regularly. The mechanical teacher was going to teach the lesson on arithmetic. It was about the addition of proper fractions. Margie had no interest in it. Margie had to put yesterday's homework in the proper slot too. The mechanical teacher never forgot to ask for the homework. Margie was sitting in front of her mechanical teacher, but she was thinking of the good old days when the kids had a common time and place to study. She was also thinking of the human teacher that used to teach them. She was thinking of the fun they had at school. Now, let's once again look through the chapter highlights so that the things will be clear in your mind. In her diary, Margie wrote about Tommy finding a new book on the schools of the old days. The old kinds of paper books used to have pages unlike e-books. Tommy and Margie considered such books to be nothing more than a waste, as they were worthless after first reading. Margie hated her mechanical teacher a lot because he was giving her test after test and she was not doing well. The county inspector came to repair the mechanical teacher of Margie so that its level could match the level of Margie. Margie was disappointed when the mechanical teacher was not taken away by the county inspector completely. Tommy and Margie both discussed the old schools and the teachers that were human beings. Tommy and Margie went to their schools to attend their lectures. The mechanical teacher flashed at their school time every day except Saturday and Sunday. Margie, with a heavy heart, had to put the homework in the proper slot, which she hated. Even being in the classroom, she was thinking of the old kind of schools with the kids and the human teachers. The mechanical teacher was on, but Margie was engrossed in thinking of the fun they had in the old days. Children, let us move to the next page. Here, Tommy is clearing the doubt of Margie. He said that students in olden time had a teacher, but it wasn't a regular teacher, it was a man. Margie had still doubt. She was unable to believe that. She asked, a man? How could a man be a teacher? Tommy answered, well, he just told the boys and girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions. This much knowledge only Tommy had about the teachers of the past. So he just said that the teacher, who is a man, just gave them homework and asked them questions. Then Margie said, a man isn't smart enough. Tommy argued. He said that man is smart enough. He also added that his father himself was a teacher. Margie wasn't prepared to dispute that. She said, I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me. Tommy screamed with laughter. You don't know much, Margie. The teachers didn't live in the house. They had a special building and all the kids went there. He was in a way trying to understand Margie about the kind of school that they had in the past. Still, Margie was not convinced. She asked, and all the kids learned the same thing? He added, yes, if they were of the same age. But Margie said, my mother says a teacher has to be adjusted to fit the mind of each boy and girl it teaches and that each kid has to be taught differently. Tommy was not much pleased to hear about that, so he said, just the same way they didn't do it that way then. If you don't like it, you don't have to read the book. Now, Margie felt bad. She thought he wouldn't give her the book. So she said, I didn't say I didn't like it. She wanted to read about those funny schools. They weren't even half finished their conversation when Margie's mother called. Margie, school. It was time for Margie and Tommy to start their school. As Margie was not willing to go to her classroom, she just looked up and told her mother that it was not yet time. Margie's mother also told Tommy that it was time for him to enter his study room. Margie said to Tommy, can I read the book some more with you after school? Maybe, he said nonchalantly, meaning not showing much interest. And he walked away, whistling, the dusty old book tucked beneath his arm. Margie went into the classroom. It was right next to her bedroom, and the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for her. It was always on at the same time every day except Saturday and Sunday, because her mother said little girls learned better if they learned at regular hours. As Margie entered her classroom, the screen was lit up and it said, today's lesson is on the addition of proper fractions. Please insert yesterday's homework in the proper slot. Margie did so with a sigh. She was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. From the whole neighborhood came, laughing and shouting in the schoolyard, sitting together in the classroom, going home together at the end of the day. They learned the same things, so they could help one another with the homework and talk about it. The mechanical teacher was flashing on the screen. It said, when we add fractions 1 by 2 and 1 by 4, Margie was thinking about how the kids must have loved it in the old days. She was thinking about the fun they had.